Following those two video clips, what I'd like to do now is to look into the key features of the flipped classroom. And let's begin by examining its instructional approach, which is flipped. But before we talk about the flipped approach to teaching in the flipped classroom, let's examine the instructional approach in a traditional classroom. So looking at a traditional classroom, for example, we know that teachers typically give lectures. And those lectures can go on and on, lasting usually to an hour, with students being forced to listen to the lecture, and some of them can be quite boring. And students in that context, therefore, are what we call passive listeners or passive learners, who are forced to try to remember and even understand what has been said. In the flipped classroom, the instructional approach is flipped because there is no longer any lecture during class time. Instead, class time is used for active and collaborative learning, which facilitate a deeper and more meaningful engagement by learners or students of the instructional content. And such active and collaborative learning activities can involve discussions or projects or problem solving or case studies. They can also include reflective exercises or role plays and even simulations. But the point being there that students no longer just end up trying to listen to content. They're actually engaging with the content through different learning activities. Now what happens then to the lecture if it no longer becomes a part of a classroom activity? What happens in the flipped classroom is that the lecture is actually pre-recorded. And the pre-recorded lecture is typically made into short instructional learning resources, which are recorded in advance of class time. Such recorded learning resources are then uploaded in a learning platform such as Moodle prior to class time. Now, it is important here to notice that typically the instructional content in the flipped classroom is actually decomposed into short learning segments of typically between 6 to 8 minutes, because it is only with learning resources which are of short duration that it usually is possible to continue to capture the interest and the attention of students. So instead of having, for example, a long lecture of an hour, what the teacher would then do would be to decompose such lecture into mini presentations around key themes. And each of those mini presentations will probably be of a duration of about 6 to 8 minutes. Now, as a result of having those resources uploaded in a learning platform such as Moodle, the net effect is that instruction or the lecture is accessible to students anywhere in advance of class time. That enables them, therefore, to actually be prepared and learn more about the learning content by the time they step into the classroom. And what it essentially also means is that instead of having students do their homework on their own outside the class, that aspect of students trying to do their homework or do certain projects on their own, this is now done during class. And they can do this not only by themselves, but actually in relation to others with whom they try to collaborate and work with. Now, in the context of the flipped classroom as well, what happens is that the teacher ceases to be a sage on the stage, but actually becomes a guide on the side, a facilitator of learning. So that instead of the teacher being a very strong, dominant presence in the classroom, the teacher instead tries to even provide individualized attention and even individualized learning by moving from perhaps one student to the next, instead of trying to speak out to the rest of the class. And as a result of the flipped classroom, a number of studies have shown that as a result of the flipped classroom, students are more engaged with learning and that their learning has actually been enhanced as a result.